G'day viewers, welcome to another super helpful, super cool repair video from the Goat Shed. Today we're going to be talking about springs. Now, an interesting topic. One of our viewers from Pennsylvania mentioned this to me a long time ago. Could we possibly do a video on springs and how you go about putting them on the different devices and that? Well, we thought that's not a bad idea. Let's talk a little bit about springs. There's lots in the pinball machine. But first, today is Monday, the 15th of April 2024. It's 18 degrees Celsius outside, which equates to approximately 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's quite a mild day. The mornings are getting cooler here as we are now halfway through autumn or fall. Now, just a reminder to please consider to subscribe to our channel. That's very important to us. It helps us with our ratings and gives us the motivation to keep making these videos for you. And also don't forget to give us the big thumbs up to our videos. That also is important. Now, what we find in our day-to-day life repairing pinball machines is there really are a lot of springs in there. You don't think too much about it. There's springs on the step units, there's springs on the relays, there's springs in the score reels, there's springs on the front door even. And there are all sorts of different types of springs that you wouldn't really consider. As people say, a spring's a spring. But you need certain tools to work with springs. Now, I feel fairly qualified to talk about this subject because this is probably about my, 55th year of working with springs, since the old days of being taught typewriters. When you were an apprentice, you had to listen to the tradesman, do what he said and do as he said. And if you didn't, by gee, you could get yourself into a fair bit of trouble. Now, we've been using this philosophy for a while now, which was taught to me by an old science teacher at school, which is look, listen and learn. And of course this philosophy applies in our everyday lives for not only just repairing pinball machines, but pretty much everything. We can all learn something new every day from each other. That's so important. Now, a lot of people aren't aware that there are special tools to help you put a spring on a device, and they are simply called spring hooks. Now, I've got 3 of mine here, and there's that famous yellow pointer, which is actually a spring hook. That's particular one would be interchangeable, so that unscrews, comes right apart, and you can fit another head on there. Now, that one I've got a fairly, almost perpendicular, it's slightly curved, and I like to use that for a specific job. Then we have another bought one here, which has a pull hook on one end, so you can pull the spring, and a push hook on the other. So that's called a push-pull spring hook, so you can use that bit to push a spring. And there are other types. There's flat ones with a hole in them, well, a groove in the centre to help you push a spring depending on the size of it. And here's another two-way spring hook, both with a hook on each end. That's homemade. That's one of mine. I would have made that, oh God, probably 50 years ago. If you're very friendly with your dentist, you know the things that they use to poke around at your teeth, the scraper thing. They've got a long pointy end on them, and they have to discard those after a period of time. If you can get some of those off your dentist, you can make a spring hook. You can make them yourselves, but they are available nowadays. They were never readily available, I don't believe. We used to buy ones like this one here, the yellow one, off a company an American company, but it was a German tool. The American company was called Ames, AMES. I think they still exist, but the German tool maker is called Drusik. Now, I can't remember exactly how to spell that, but they make specialised office machine tools, probably specialising more in ones for printers and things like that today. But they last a long time. That particular yellow one there, that used to come in a little green pouch with a push-pull on it, and a couple of other hook ends. I've probably had that since maybe 1975, something like that. So they do last forever. I'd imagine that the ones you buy off Amazon would probably break a little bit easier than that now, but if you make your own, you won't have any trouble. The other thing you need is a pair of long nose pliers and a pair of cutters. Now, it's a controversial subject, cutting a spring, but it is necessary. Now, you've really got three types of spring. You've got your ordinary tension spring with a hook on each end. You've got a compression spring. That's a giant version of a stepper snowshoe spring. And you have a torsion spring. There's one off a stepper unit. They're called torsion springs because you can wind those up. Now, those torsion springs, along with other springs, are available for purchase from people like the Pinball Resource. Steve makes spring kits for the different step units, and you can buy the compression springs for the snowshoes, and you can buy new snowshoes. So they are available, but this particular one here, this is one out of a score reel. Now, what happens with these is that, as people know in those score reels, the springs can get a little bit tight. Now I'm going to move this one round. This one probably needs overhauling. Yeah, it does. It's a bit tight. But that spring is the one, you can just see it there. There it is, it hooks on there. Now, whenever we overhaul a score reel, and look, I'm not going to pull this apart because we've done video before on Decagon score reels, we normally cut at least one or two loops off that spring. Why do we do that? Okay, the reason is, and you think about this logically, this spring is going... Now it's metal, yes, they're designed to last, but they weren't designed to last 50 years. Right, so over a period of time they lose their elasticity. Now, I once had a guy, or I didn't have, he wrote in one of the groups, it might have been the EM Pinball Facebook group, I can't remember, where we mentioned we cut springs, and he ripped it into me, told me this and told me that, and he was an engineer, and he was this and he was that. Well, that's great. Not a problem. Probably everything he said was absolutely 100% true, but the necessity to cut those springs would still be there to help you improve the operation of your device. It's as simple as that, and that's been proven time and time again. The only other thing that impedes that is these switch stacks. Sometimes you have to adjust the switch, the weight of the switch impedes it when it's travelling over from 9 to 0. So you've just got to sort of be aware of that sort of thing as well. Now, what I mean by that is that this is one of those later style ones that's got the little comb there, like a relay. So you don't want too much weight on that particular switch there, because what will happen is it could impede the carryover, because remember that arm connects to the other side of that. So you've just got to feel them and make sure you're happy with them and all that sort of thing. Alright, we're not here to talk about score reels though, as I said. We're here to talk about springs. Now, let's have a little look at this. Here's a common Gottlieb step unit. The step unit has 1, 2, 3, 5 springs. So we have this tension spring here. That's the one hooked to the drive arm. We'll drop that out. We have this spring here. This one is the reset arm spring. I'm going to try and get that out of the road with... There you go, we got that. We have this one here, which is the reset arm spring. Try and get that one out there. Out it comes. Couldn't do that if you tried. We have this one here, which is the drive pull spring. I'm doing this one-handed. And we have the torsion spring. Now, I'm not going to remove that, it's not necessary. Now, what I want to illustrate to you is this. Just using the white paper there as the background. What I'm trying to illustrate is that when a spring is looped at the factory, one end is looped opposite to the other. So that's looped over the top, meaning going like that, where this one, the other end, is looped underneath, going like that. So, in other words, the eye is on the opposite, the spring. Now, they do that for a couple of reasons. One reason is that sometimes when you have a spring like this particular one we've got a hook back on here, you've got this little bit here the spring hooks into, but it hooks onto like another piece over here. In this case, that hooks into that hole there. A bit hard to see that hole, I suppose, but the hole is there. It doesn't hook onto there, that's for the big one. It hooks into there. So what that means is when we put that spring on, what we've got to do, it's got to be opposite. So we want this one to come in from, so that the little gap is at the top. That gap, there, we want that to be at the top. So what we're going to do with that spring, let's hope I can do this easily. We're going to get it, and we're just going to pull it back gently and hook it in there and roll the spring hook off. Pretty straightforward to do. With this one, now it probably makes sense, that comes from underneath, and this is up near the top. So you're just going to put this one over here, you're going to pull it, you can pull it gently with and just roll it into the hole. And there it goes. Now, it's always a good idea to watch how a spring comes off before you take it off. That's fairly important. And that would certainly apply to the torsion spring. And we do show you how to fit torsion springs on our video, Gottlieb ball count unit rebuild. So have a look at that, please, if you're interested. The other spring that we've got a hook back on now is the drive arm spring. Now, it's the same. There's a hook. Whoops, can't see that, can we? There we go. There's a hook on one side and on the other. That's opposite it again. So all you've got to do is roll it in the direction of being opposite the way it's hooked on at the bottom. Hook it on at the top. You can do that with your hand. There's no tricks or anything there. This particular spring here, it's the same. What I do with that spring, I hold my hand on the pawl. I just hold it so the pawl doesn't move. And I hook it over it. And there we go, that's done. Oh, you couldn't see that one real good, could you? I'll do that again for you. So we take that off. Hold it in, hold it on at the end, and just hook it on. And the reset one, it's pretty simple. It just hooks on to one end. That's normally wound pretty tight on there. It's hard to get off. So all you do then, just bring it down, twist the spring around, and it fits in a little hole under there in the reset arm. I don't know if you can see the hole. Oh yeah, you can. There it is there. So I'm just going to grab that spring. I like to steady it with my finger, pull it down, and there it is, it's in. It's not hard to do. Now a lot of people, we're going to do some more difficult ones in just a minute. So that's fitting springs to a step unit. once again, it's not really rocket science. I think it's pretty simple. But if you're unsure, you take yourself some photographs of it. That's probably the best thing to do. Now let's talk about a simple relay. Same thing. Here's an AG relay. It's got that spring on it. That spring, you can see the spring pulling, release. Now a lot of people cut these springs. Yeah, they sometimes need cutting, but also remember you can get more tension on these as well. And we've done this in our relay video, but I'm just going to show you. The long blade, just get your switch adjuster and bend that in the slightly forward direction. Same with this one. This is good. It's only got. And same with the make break. And it's hard to see, but I can feel already I've improved. That's even snappier. Okay, but what I wanted to show you was about the spring. There's the spring. Now there's a high, that sticks up higher, and that's lower. So that spring, that's the high side, that's the low side. Take that spring off. Once again, if you're not sure. Now this spring has got can we see that there? It's a bit of a twisted one, this one, but that's okay. So there's a high part and a low part. Now the part here on the right, I can see straight away that's higher. Can you see that? So that's the part that goes back on the high side, where this part's lower. Now like I say, that's a bit twisted, but it'll make sense now. If I hold that there like this, and I say, righto, let's get that on. That's higher. Just goes on there. Whoops, I done that wrong. Go on there. We want the other side to be lower, like it is there. So some people have fingernails and can do it like that, but I don't, so I've got to grab hold of the thing and hook it on. So high side, low side. That prevents the spring from falling off. And that's on your relay. Now, sometimes you've got to be a little bit inventive when you put springs back on devices. And I think so much so that the drop targets are probably the most trickiest to put springs on. Well, there's different things you can do. Now, what I mean is this. The drop target has 3 separate springs in it. Now, Gottlieb part number for those springs, there's an A18995. Now that's the spring that pulls the target forward when it falls. So the other one is A517. Now that's the one that restores the target, so that's the slightly stronger one. Now both those springs look very much alike, and if you do buy them, sometimes they throw them both in the one packet. So you've actually got to pick them up and look at them and even slightly feel them, and you'll feel that one is actually stronger than the other. Well, that's the A517, the heavier target restore spring. The other one they use is an A3455. That's a little hair spring that fits on the end to help the what is it? Not the reset arm, the bail arm, series arm go back. Now, these give people nightmares, I think, and rightly so. They are a little bit difficult, and here again, we've done videos on drop targets before. But seeing as we're specifically talking about springs and how to fit them on, we thought we might cover those as well today, to help those of you out that aren't familiar. Here are the 2 springs, the 18995 is this spring here going from the target back to the top of the trigger. Now that's the trigger there. So that's that one there. And there's the other one, the 3-digit part number A517 just there. So that goes from the trigger to the frame. Now sometimes that is a fairly difficult one to get on. They all can be, there's no two ways about it, but one thing you can do, you can be a little bit innovative. Now take this one for argument's sake. It's got a hook on to the back of the trigger. Now I can't quite get that in focus or in the picture, I think. Oh, there's the back of a trigger over there. You can just see that. That's where that other spring has to hook on. So, as I said, that can be somewhat difficult to do. And you may experience some problems. So, what you can do with springs, you can say to yourself, okay, I have this spring here. What I'm going to do, and it's a small spring, I'll get something like a screw. Try and get one roughly the right size, but all of a sudden it'll bite because the inside of the spring's hooking onto the screw. If you can get something a bit thicker, that's all good. Now what you're able to do is then you can get a pair of pliers and you can say, righto, I'm going to hook that spring on over there like that. And there you go, that's on. I'll just take that out again. I know it's hard to see in there. I hope you get the concept of what I'm trying to show you. It's pretty straightforward. Whereas on a spring like, and you can use a longer screw if you can get one. I mean, that's just one example of what to do. If you have a push-pull spring hook, this is too big, this push. You'd have to use a smaller one, and they are available in those sets you can buy off Amazon, etc. You could do that. And for this one here, it's probably the easiest to do. Let's probably do this one for you. Oh, and just remember, I didn't really point that out. That's the spring's got a hook on there, that A18995. So you are best to put it on there, and where you come through to get I've still got the switch stacks on this. You can come through here, but those switch stacks on there, they've got to be off. Well, they don't have to be, but it makes it a lot easier if they're not there. We always take those off when we do a drop target. Then you can put that through there like that. And of course you're looking at it from the side. I obviously can't. You're going through there like that. I don't know, you're going to be able to see it. You might. Where are we? I've pushed the spring down because I've got those in the road. Let me try that again for you. Yeah, it's a bit hard to get in there, but I hope you get the picture. But bearing in mind those switches aren't on there. So who would have thought? That's one good little trick. And these ones here, well, what you can do, when we rebuild these, we always hook this one on first. So you've hooked that on, and this one's not on up here. So just take that off. Well, that's good, it don't want to come off. There you go, it's off. that one's off. What you do with that, you can just come down from the top there and hook it on. This one's a bit easier because it's on the outside, so I don't really have to do that. I can just bring it up and over and it's on. Simple as that. And the same with the ones down the middle there, but remember you've hooked them on here first when you've rebuilt that. Or you can, if you're only changing one, well you've just got to change the one that you're working on there. Hope that makes a bit of sense anyway. Springs are lots of fun. I mean, I put some really difficult springs on in my time. I mean, really difficult. You wouldn't, on typewriters, they never ever thought the damn things would break. And they're those little type springs, you know, these ones. Typewriters use a fair few of these. This is the one, where are we? This type of spring. Let's get that out of the road. This type of spring here. So as I said, this particular one here, you put it on it goes on this shaft on the inside, and it helps restore the reset arm, and then it ends up hooking onto the frame. It's like a mini torsion spring. Whoops. See that? Goes like that. Yeah. If you're never sure where something goes, bear in mind that Gottlieb made these parts manuals all through the life of their machines, and you can always say get something like this. Now here's we have one of these here. What's this? ...1978 parts catalogue. Now that takes you right back to the 60s, and they did make specific ones for specific errors, but I do recommend you get hold of one of those. Of course, they're available from the Pinball Resource. They're not very expensive, but you know, if you're a collector and you're going to be working on pinballs, it's got all the information that you want in it. Let's just show you, we were just looking at the drop targets, so if we can just find that spot again, which is here somewhere. I probably won't be able to find it now. Just a sec, let's have a good look for that. There's an exploded view of, you know, just some parts from the actual drop targets. So it's really a good idea to get one of those books. All right. Well, we hope that was somewhat informative for you. I know it's hard to see things when you're trying to do it in a video. I try and get it in shot as best I can. Sometimes you've got to turn mechanisms around and then you don't realise it's out of shot. I think I did that once or twice there, but I corrected it. Any questions, please let us know in the comments below. Feel free to give us any feedback on that video. We'll be doing another video over the next week on another totally different subject. If you've watched this far, thanks so much for watching. We appreciate the comments that people give us about our videos. It takes a little time out of our day, but we feel it's worth it for the longevity of being able to keep these marvellous old games going for future generations to enjoy. Because, let's face it, when some of us older guys go, we need some younger people to be repairing these machines. And Spanky and I are looking forward to seeing everyone at Pinball Expo in October. We're also looking forward to seeing our friends in York in Pennsylvania, and for that matter, people we come across all over the United States. Only 5 months and a few weeks to go now, so the countdown is on. So once again, thanks very, very much for watching, and this has been another Goat Shed presentation.